Hey everyone, welcome back to Music and Moonsalts. I'm your host, Chris Bourdine, and joining me today, a very special guest, 1/3 of the hosts of Grapsody over on youtube.com/Fightful. I got Mr. Phil Lindsay with me today. Phil, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. So Phil and I exchanged some tweets months ago. I can't even remember when about the Queen or about Bohemian Rhapsody movie. And then, so I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, when he did Joe Holbert's birthday tribute video and did the Lewis Tully courtroom speech from Ghostbusters 2, I'm like, I got to find a way to get this dude on my show. So I hit him up, and he was gracious enough to grant me his time today. So I appreciate it, man.
yeah. Yeah. I don't remember what we tweeted about at the time, but I tweeted a lot about the movie because I'm a big Queen fan, and ah, it, it's such a it's such an interesting movie because there's certain things I really like about it, but I feel like it missed the mark in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah, it's very polarizing. I enjoyed the movie, but I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a big Queen fan. I'm a fan of theirs for sure, but not like where enough where, say, if it was a Foo Fighters biopic and they got some stuff wrong, I'd probably be like, you know, old man yelling at cloud stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't have that kind of relationship with Queen, so for me it was just like, oh, this is a really fun movie, especially seeing it in the theater. Hearing those songs like in the theater with a bunch of people was awesome. So yeah, but yeah, I understand it has its detractors, and I get their points. So it is what it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, I don't think they could have cast anyone better as Freddie. I think he did a
Yes,
great job.
I did too.
He being Rami Malek, and then there's other things I really like about it, but it's just I don't know, man. It's bits of it that I'm like,
Yeah.
that's an odd choice.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things too, where with the and it's uh, straight up documentaries are the same way. Anytime you get the band involved, you're gonna get their version of what the
Yeah,
history is.
yeah,
So
and that's another part. Freddie's not here, and this is
right,
this is the band making something,
right,
and it seems like in some ways it wanted to push Freddie forward, but also paint this odd picture of him that he was very conflicted about who he was, which
right.
he was, but I feel like that took up too much of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're not here to talk about Bohemian Rhapsody the movie today. We're here to talk about the album A Day at the Races, which when this drops will be on the 45th anniversary. It came out December 10th, 1976. It's their fifth album, and it's coming off of A Night at the Opera, which had Bohemian Rhapsody on it. So um, has a couple of well-known songs on it, and we're gonna talk about it a little bit today. How did you? I always ask my guests, like, how did you come in contact with Queen, and how did you become such a big Queen fan?
That is an interesting question. Um, I mean, I think we all know certain Queen records,
Yeah,
like because they just have big like stadium records, like We Will Rock You and
right.
certain stuff that is a part of public consciousness. Um, I think I'm trying to think of the specific song that made me a Queen fan, and it made me go back and re-listen to a lot of stuff because, of course, I'm not old enough to have grown up
Right.
when Queen was at their hottest, or
Mm-hmm.
even because I almost want to say of course, a lot of people jumped on with Bohemian Rhapsody after Wayne's World, but I
Right.
think it was later on for me because I almost feel like it was I feel like it was sometimes in college because I listened to a lot of rock music during college. I
Oh,
think that was kind of my getting out of only listening to rap phase.
right.
Um, and so, yeah, it was probably in college. It was probably like around 2000, like 2001.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah, I want to say the first time I kind of put two and two together of like, okay, this is Queen and they sing "We Will Rock You," or was probably the Mighty Ducks movie, to be honest. You know, that's oh okay, and then I got I think for Christmas one year I got the two disc greatest hits 1 and 2 compilation and stuff like that from there. But that's cool, man. That's cool. So yeah, I've been messing with my format a little bit. I think for this album, you kind of have to take it as the album. In the past, I've been talking about like things a little bit out of order. Today, I kind of want to just go down in order, except for save one song for the very end. But yeah, so it kicks off. The album kicks off with "Tie Your Mother Down," which was the second single they released, and it peaked at number 49 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's cool intro. There's like a gong, and then I love how this album ties into each other, because you get like the main guitar riff, a little taste of that from White Man, and then you get the harmonium scale, which is flipped backwards on the recording. That also is the end of the album too, before "Tie Your Mother Down" starts. So I really love that, how it's an album. It's like so like if you've got it on repeat, like when that part ends the album, it kicks right back in at the beginning. So I really like when bands do stuff like that.
Yeah. I really like "Tie Your Mother Down." I feel like it's one of my favorite records on the album.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's, besides the obvious record, it's one of the more recognizable records on the album.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting when I think of this album. This is their fifth album.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is like when they really started taking off. If you follow the chronology,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes it gets lost behind Night at the Opera, where it's kind of like a companion piece to it, and that's probably the more popular album of the two.
It's because it got the biggest song on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's got Bohemian Rhapsody, but it also started like this trend of them doing, well, not this trend, because they were doing operatic rock music before that. But I feel like this is kind of the same tone, and these two albums kind of fit right next to each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
the packaging is the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same kind of reference for the title of the album. But I feel like I said, it falls to the wayside in some people's listening habits because it's not as famous as the one that came before it. And, for some, super rock purists, those first three albums are like, they're so tonally different.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even before we talked about this album and I listened to it, I was like, I don't listen to this album very often. That's what I was thinking when I was listening to it. And so when I heard this song, I was like, this is actually like better than I remember. This song is better than I remember. This song is better than I remember.
Yeah. No, I really like the song. This is like probably the most, like, as far as like a straight ahead, rock song. It's probably the best example on this album. And it's a great opening track. So yeah, I really love this song a lot. And then, but to your point of how much of a mixed bag Queen is, you go from this straight ahead rocker, and then you get a piano ballad with "Take My Breath Away" like right after that. It's the dichotomy of that is so interesting.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first album that they kind of self-produced.
Yes.
And so I feel like they were just getting their legs as what they wanted their sound to be outside of their usual. And I think that's also why their first four albums, besides, Night at the Opera, sound so different. I mean, like this album sounds similar to the one that came before, but I also feel like they're really trying to find their legs and what they want to do moving forward. Like, I feel like this is a transition album, kind of.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they are like the first song, like I feel like they've had that one in the tuck for a while. And then this one, it feels like, all right, well, let's just see where this one fits.
Yeah, I think in the research, "Tie Your Mother Down" actually was Brian had that song like in like '68 when he was at college, So that one had been kicking around for a while. So, but yeah, it's a very beautiful song. It's pretty much, like I said, just piano and Freddie, and he's doing all the vocals and the piano work. There's a little bit of a guitar solo in the middle, but other than that, it's Freddie, man. It's all Freddie. So
Yeah, it's a very beautiful song. It's beautifully written. Of course, Freddie is one of the greatest, rock vocalists ever. So I feel like his vocals
yes,
on this are perfect. I feel like the harmonies on it are really good towards the beginning. Um, I think, like you said, just the sequencing is kind of off. Like first song, and then you jump into this. I feel like you got to be in the mood for it.
yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. And it's one of those ones where I'm like, again, like, I've been listening to it, just to get a better feel of it leading up to us recording this today, and like when it starts, like I'm always like, oh yeah, it's this song. But then like by the time I'm like not even midway through, I'm into it. So it's maybe it's a little bit of a slow starter, but it does the trick, I think. And then at the end of the song, again, we get like some cool production value with a bunch of multi-layered vocals saying "Take My Breath Away," and it leads right into the third song, which is "Long Away," which was written and sung by Brian May. It's the last single they released off the album, and they only released it in the U.S., Canada, and New Zealand, and it didn't chart anywhere, which is why it probably it's not really a well-known song, but it's the only Queen single released while Freddie was alive that he didn't sing. So.
Yeah, I didn't know that part. I mean, it's weird because I think when you listen to some of these, kind of like when you listen to Beatles records, where you can tell, all right, this is a John record, this is a Paul record, this is a, this is a Ringo record, and I feel like, I mean, we'll get to it later, but like I can always tell the Roger record, like this is the Roger record.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, I think when I listen to this one, like you can see the collaborative effort on it. I wouldn't have guessed that this is something that Freddie wrote that he didn't sing. But Brian May's vocals are good on this record.
Yeah.
And it's a good song.
Yeah, I like it a lot. After that, we've got the Millionaire Waltz, which is another kind of weird weird kind of a style of song, but it somehow it's still Queen. It fits.
Yeah.
It was Freddie wrote it about their manager John Reid, who was also Elton John's manager. Fun fact. So I try with these music episodes, because I do music and wrestling. I try to find, if I can, a wrestling connection with some of these albums, and this one's a little far-fetched, but stick with me here. So John Reid was played in Bohemian Rhapsody by Aidan Gillen, who was the antagonist in the John Cena film 12 Rounds.
I would have put those two and two together, so.
So there you go. This is a really fun song. I really like this song. It changes time signatures. There's like there's a guitar part of the guitar solo is, I believe it's, wouldn't know the name of it, but I could have swore I've heard that piece of music before somewhere. So I don't think that was, I think that's like a famous like waltz number. I could be wrong on that though, but it sounds very familiar. Like I've heard that someplace before. And I love John Deacon's bass playing at the beginning, kind of accompanying Freddie and the piano.
Yeah.
Really showing his stuff. So, which is important to me as a bass player. So.
Yeah, I feel like John Deacon is one of the unsung bass players.
He's very underrated. He's very
in general.
underrated.
Like I feel like just his contributions on bass, the songs that he wrote. I just don't think he gets enough credit.
No, I don't think so either. And part of it is because he's kind of stepped away. It's been Brian and Roger for the last however many years. He's kind of content to just live his life and kind of keep away from all the hustle and bustle. So
yeah, you gotta admire it in some ways that he had such a great friendship with Freddie that he was kind of like, once Freddie's done, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to continue to do it without him.
Right.
And that's admirable.
Mm-hmm.
I actually feel like that's part of what was missed in the movie. Like you don't get their relationship in the movie at all. Like you
Yeah.
don't get anything to do with their friendship. You don't get anything to do with the songs that he wrote and anything that he contributed to the group. He's just kind of there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. But speaking of Deacon, he writes the next song, which is the last song on side one. If you're listening to it on vinyl, it's called "You and I." And for whatever reason, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to this album in the last few days, and I can never like when I think about this song, I'm like, now which one is that again? And it's not until I hear it start, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how it goes. Like for whatever reason, I can't. This one just doesn't stick in my brain like every other song on this album.
Yeah. Well, it could be that just like I said earlier, I am a big believer that John Deacon is slept on.
Yeah.
And so when I think of this album, I always think of You and I. It's one of my
Okay.
favorite songs on the album. And it always sticks out because I know that John wrote this record. And I mean, of course, it is not, in comparison to other things he wrote. Like,
Right.
I mean, another one, Bites the Dust, and like these other massive hits.
Right. Right.
Or like I Want to Break Free or something like that.
Exactly.
But I still feel like it's one of my favorites that he's written.
Mm-hmm. It's a good song like I said, when I listen to it, but for whatever reason, it hasn't like attached itself into my brain like every other song on this album has. Listening to it, so
yeah, I feel
that's
like
probably more of a me thing than with the song. So
yeah, I feel like he was really good at writing like some of the love songs that they did. And again, I just feel like he just doesn't get enough credit for that.
Yeah.
I feel like when I think of Queen, like Spread Your Wings is one of my favorite Queen records, and he also wrote that one.
Okay. Awesome. We're gonna come back to Somebody to Love. We're gonna save that for the end because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk about that one. But after that is White Man, which is another song written by Brian May. And there's this weird thing in rock music with white guys writing songs about the them coming over and killing all the Native Americans. I mean, you got this. You got I can think of three off the top of my head, or two others besides this one. There's Great White Buffalo by Ted Nugent, which I mean we don't have to say any more about that. And then there's Run for the Hills by Iron Maiden. So it's like I don't know what it was around this time that all these white dudes decided we're gonna write these songs about slaying all the Native Americans and how bad it was, but you know.
I don't know. This is a very awkward song. I just think just the way that it is very, I don't know. I don't want to say on the nose.
Yeah.
But for lack of better words, it's very on the nose, especially the chorus of it. It's just it's an awkward record. It's not a bad record, but it's definitely not one that I run to listen to every time I listen to this album.
Musically, I'm really into it. I like the heaviness of it. It's definitely showing their more, quote unquote metal side, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as far as the lyrical content, it's like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I think when they get in there, I think when they get into their metal bag on other albums, it has come across better for me.
Yeah.
Like, when like Stone Cold Crazy
Yes.
and some of the other earlier stuff is better. And
Yes.
so when I think about it, this one doesn't pop to mind.
No. After that, we got Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy. This is probably my second favorite song on the album. I just love this song. It's got that classic Brian May like dual track guitar solo. And I'm just a big fan of his guitar sound overall. It's a really great, unique sound that he has. And he's, one of the few people where it's like you only need to hear a couple notes and right away it's Brian May playing. And it's just a fun little song.
Yeah, I really like this record as well. Brian May, I feel like it's just, I mean, he's Brian May. Like when you think guitarist, like, and you think of like, you're not gonna put him among like some of the top virtuosos out there, but I feel like like you said, he has such a unique sound. Like you can pick out his solos right away when you hear them. And I feel like that's all here. Like all of the things that make him great are in this record.
Yeah. They did there was a thing on VH1 in like 2006. They did called Rock Honors where they it was like Queen, it was like Queen, Judas Priest, Def Leppard, and Kiss. I think they were honoring. And for Queen, they had Foo Fighters play beforehand to pay tribute, and then like for the video package, they had Kiefer Sutherland of all people, talking about how much he loved Queen. And the one thing that he said in that, which always stuck out in my mind, he's like, and don't even try to copy Brian May's tone because you can't.
No.
And it's like, yeah, no. That's pretty accurate there. So
yeah, I don't think you can really duplicate his tone or just the kind of energy he came in with his solos. Like, and I mean that could be partially just how they worked on their solos, because I read once that Freddie would play some of them out on piano and then he would come out and embellish them. I don't know how true that is, but I feel like the way he approached solos was just so unique.
Yes. Yep. We get to Drowze, which is written and sung by Roger Taylor. This is probably my, as much as I said, You and I didn't really stick in my head, this is probably my least favorite song on the album. Like, it's not, I wouldn't call it bad, but it's definitely one where if this came up on a shuffle, I would probably hit skip.
Yeah. Listen, I think Roger Taylor is great. I think he's a great drummer. I think he is I don't think that people really understand how talented he is in terms that he plays multiple instruments. He's not a bad singer. But again, like I noted earlier, you can always tell a Roger Taylor record. And man, he's so very hit or miss for me. Like there are certain times where I think his records are great, like Tenement Funster. But this one's not one of my favorite Roger records. It just doesn't really do it for me. Right. I don't know, man. And I think it's partially because I don't listen to this album. Like out of the entirety of their discography, I don't listen to this album the most often.
Okay.
So when I hear it, it's like, yeah, that's the Roger record. All right.
Yep. Yeah, which brings us to the last album on the record, which was I'm not even going to try and pronounce the Japanese translation, but it's Let Us Cling Together. And the song was written specifically for the Japanese fans. They released it as a single just in Japan. And it's a cool song, and the chorus, they alternate singing in English and in Japanese.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try and pronounce it.
Yeah.
The title of this record either.
Nope.
I don't want to butcher this. Sorry, Japanese listeners. But yeah, I really like this record. I feel like this is a great testament to where they were as a band at that time. You know, where their career had taken them, and I feel like they were a global. They were a global act at that time. And I mean, this is before, Bohemian Rhapsody hit hard in the 90s like it did here.
Right.
But still, they were a global act. They were way beyond just being just a Brit rock group anymore.
Yeah. So, saying you're big in Japan is kind of a joke, but they were legitimately big in Japan. And everywhere else. Yeah, it's kind of haunting too, some of the lyrics when you think about what ultimately happened to Freddie, because a lot of it is like talking about when I'm gone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of hit me. I mean, he wouldn't pass away for another 14 years after this, but it just feels like it's like, man, it's kind of foreshadowing or something. Like it it definitely stuck to me
for sure. But that's why the way this album is, just because, like I said, it's their fifth album and it came after a lot of their success. And I feel like one of the things missing from this album that you get from those first four albums is you get a lot of introspective Freddie records early on, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you don't get as many of those here. So this one just kind of hits differently because it's like I don't know, it just feels like I don't know. In the way that you said, it feels haunting. Um, and I don't know, it just makes me question like where was he at this time in his
Right.
career? Like where
Right.
was he with, I don't think that he was struggling with who he was with his identity. And that maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's why we don't get any of the introspective records, but it also makes me wonder like, where was he mentally? Like
Yeah.
where was he with, his love life? How happy was he? I don't know. Um, but he's just such a fascinating guy, and so a lot of stuff that he writes and a lot of stuff he does musically drew me to the band.
Mm-hmm.
The more and more I learned about him, the more and more I'm like that he's one of the greatest musicians ever.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. All right, we're circling back now. It's time for the main event. Um, this might be hyperbole. I don't think it is. This is one of the greatest songs ever written. Somebody to Love.
Yeah,
Um, it's I feel about this song the same way I feel when I hear like Let It Be. Like just the same weight it carries. Um, obviously it's the biggest hit on the album. Peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 here in the States. Um, it was interesting to when doing the research that uh, he was really inspired by like gospel music and like Aretha Franklin, and that's how he came to write this song. And they like all the background vocals, especially towards the end, they just layered on top so it sounds like there's 100 people when it's just three. Um, and just it's just a great song, and saying it's a great song doesn't do it justice.
yeah. I for sure think it's one of the greatest rock songs of all time. I feel like when you look at their discography, it's one of the greatest records in their entire discography. I don't feel like that's really debatable. I feel
Yeah.
like most people, when they think Queen, they think this record. It's a quintessential Queen record.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like you could clearly see like all of the gospel influences, like the R&B and soul influences, um, especially just like in instrumentation. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of guitar on this thing. There's not a lot of heavy solos or riffs. It tries to stay, very melodic,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's part of why it appeals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that rock music is not for everyone, but I feel like part of its appeal is that you could play this anywhere.
Yeah. Yes. Um, yeah. I mean, you meant like the call and response type vocals. You know, the somebody at towards the end is very very gospel. There isn't a lot of guitar on it, but when Brian comes in, he makes it count. And like you said, he doesn't do anything fancy. Basically, what he does is he just plays the vocal melody on guitar, but he does it with the same amount of uh, passion that Freddie sings the lyrics in. Like it hits the same way that Freddie does when he singing the words of the song.
Yeah, yeah,
It's one of if it's not it's definitely one of my absolute favorite Brian May solos. It's fantastic.
yeah. I can agree with that. I feel like he was very good at knowing um, how to come in with a solo and where to fit it. It was never, if you want to get into wrestling, I got to get my stuff in. It was
Right.
never, I got to show out on this thing. It always was, how do I fit the record? How do I fit the tone of the record? Um, what are we trying to do as a band? And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that is what Queen excelled at,
Yes.
especially in those first 5 albums. I don't feel like they ever were stepping on each other's toes.
Mm-hmm. No, it was definitely the cliche all for one for all type deal, and to have I mean like you said, all four guys are incredible musicians. All four guys can write hit songs. All four guys can sing. Like is one of the most talented four people that were ever put together in a band. Like it's it's crazy ridiculous how good they are.
Yeah, just everything about them is just so weird. It's like they are. It's not just that they're super talented. Like when you look at just Freddie Mercury and who he was, and the fact that he was like kind of like a fashion designer, and he had all these other things, like he's classically trained to play piano.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at Brian May, and he's this phenomenal guitarist, and then he's like a rocket scientist as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's weird. It's like they're just like a band of misfits that also are just extremely talented.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. Um, well, anything else? Anything else you want to say about this album or Queen in general before we let you go
Uh,
today?
I mean, if you pull my leg, I could go
Go
on and
ahead.
on about how great I think Queen is. But yeah, this album, like I said, it might not rank as high on my list of Queen albums. Like I mean, when I really discovered them, like I said, those first three albums, like I used to play those repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you know, this album has its hits. Like I mean, maybe if you ask most people like what album is somebody to love on, they might not be able to tell you. But again, I feel like that speaks to the fact that this is kind of a transition album for them,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of went into making more stadium tracks after this.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's probably the last of them doing like concept albums, if you want to put it that way.
Right.
Well, no, because they did a concept album, but I feel like they had a string where that's all they did was concept albums, like very high art stuff.
Right. Yeah. For sure. For sure. All right, man. Where can people find you? I gotta say, I love Grapsody, man. From the jump, you guys are great, and I enjoy listening to you guys every week. I usually get to you guys about Monday or Tuesday while I'm at work, but it's great stuff. And yeah, I just can't put you guys over enough. It's a really great show, and everyone should go check it out.
Appreciate you. Of course, you can watch Grapsody on Saturdays live if you care to watch us live at noon Eastern on YouTube, on the Fightful YouTube channel. I always fumble around on it. It's YouTube/Fightful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you can watch us there, or if you want to catch us afterwards, you can always catch us on the YouTube channel, or you can catch us on whichever DSPs that Fightful podcasts are on. You can follow me at PhilDL616. You can follow our podcast account, Grapsody Pod.
Awesome. And you do some writing as well, correct?
I do. I write for Bleacher Report. You can read my writing there. And Daily DDT. I am currently working on an interview with Jonathan Gresham and Baron Black. They're getting ready to push Terminus in January.
Nice.
So yeah, look out for that interview.
Sweet. Awesome. You can follow me at IbanezChris on Twitter. You can go to facebook.com/musicandmoonsalts. Or you can also, if you just want audio, you can find me on pretty much every podcast platform there is. Please subscribe to the channel and leave a thumbs up on the video. And leave a comment too. Let me know what you think of this album and what your favorite song is in the comments and stuff. Until next time, guys. See ya.